Picture the life you dream about when the noise dies down, a life that feels bigger than a paycheck, richer than a weekend escape, deeper than the latest trend. You see flashes of it. Freedom in your schedule, warmth in your relationships, purpose in your work. The question isn't whether such a life can exist. The question is always, what daily habits will you choose to build it? An extraordinary life is never an accident. It is not the result of luck, a single decision, or one grand opportunity. It is the natural harvest of small choices repeated faithfully over time. Think of a seed in the soil. One day's sun or rain doesn't bring the harvest. The daily care does, the quiet watering, the patient weeding, the steady attention. Your life is a field exactly like that. I used to wait for the big break. Maybe someone would notice my work. Maybe a door would swing open. But years passed, and I realized opportunity rarely knocks until you've built a house strong and invited in. The bricks of that house, habits, tiny, ordinary, easily ignored. They build your character when no one is watching. They whisper your future long before it arrives. If you want proof, look at your mornings. How you greet the first hour tells the truth about the rest of the day. For a long time, I greeted morning with hurry. Phone in hand, half awake, checking headlines that belonged to someone else's priorities. It shaped my thinking before I had spoken a single word to myself. Eventually, I changed one small thing. I gave the first 10 minutes to silence and a blank page. I asked, what matters most today? 10 minutes of deliberate thought gave me more clarity than an hour of scattered scrolling. That simple habit changed the flavor of my entire day. Every lasting change touches three arenas: mind, body, and spirit. Strengthen these, and everything else finds its place. Let's begin with the mind. Your mind is a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Neglect the soil, and weeds win. I learned to feed my mind intentionally. I chose books that challenged me, mentors who stretched me, and questions that sharpened me. One mentor asked, "What are you reading that is reading you back?" That line still stirs me. It means, don't just read for comfort, read for transformation. Each evening, I spend at least 20 minutes with something that lifts my perspective. Biography, scripture, a well-crafted essay. 20 minutes may sound small, but over a year it adds up to more than 100 hours of wisdom shaping my thoughts. Now, the body. Energy is the engine of achievement. You can't pursue big dreams on an empty tank. I once believed I was too busy for exercise, too tired to cook a proper meal. The truth was simpler. I lacked discipline. Then a friend said, if you don't take care of your body, where will you live? That sentence landed like a stone in water, rippling through every excuse. I began with 15-minute walks at sunrise. No fancy gear, no heroic workouts, just consistent movement. The result wasn't only better health, it was sharper focus and steadier moods. Small actions, daily repeated, built a foundation for everything else I wanted to accomplish. Finally, the spirit. Call it heart, conscience, or soul, ignore it, and life grows thin. I practice gratitude like breathing. Each night before sleep, I list 3 things I'm thankful for. Some days it's profound, a hard lesson learned, a breakthrough conversation. Other days it's as simple as the taste of fresh bread or the sound of rain. Gratitude isn't a feeling, it's a discipline. Over time, it shifts how you see the world. Abundance replaces scarcity. Calm replaces hurry. Perhaps you think these habits sound too ordinary. Good. Ordinary is where transformation hides. A single page written each morning becomes a book. A quiet walk each evening becomes health. A few kind words become a lifetime of friendship. Extraordinary lives are built from ordinary acts done with extraordinary consistency. Consider this, which small habit is shaping you right now without your permission? Late night scrolling, constant complaining, worrying over what you can't control. Habits are loyal servants. They never call in sick. They will serve your future or steal it. When I finally grasped this truth, I began to design my days instead of drifting through them. I created a 5-minute evening review. 3 questions: what did I do well? What needs improvement? What will I start tomorrow? Simple but powerful. It kept me honest, hopeful, and ready for the next sunrise. Opportunities that once felt distant began to appear, not because the world suddenly favored me, but because I had changed. Consistency breeds confidence, And confidence attracts doors you couldn't see before. Remember, if it matters, schedule it. If it lifts you, repeat it. That is not rigidity, that is freedom. Freedom from chaos, freedom from regret. The person who masters a few deliberate habits holds the quiet power to shape destiny. So pause now. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what one habit could you begin tomorrow that would honor your mind, strengthen your body, or awaken your spirit? Not 10. Just one. Write it down. Commit to it for 30 days. Let today be the day you stop waiting for extraordinary and start practicing it. Because in the end, an extraordinary life is simply ordinary days, lived on purpose. When the morning light filters through your window, it carries more than brightness. It carries the invitation to begin again. Yesterday's habits have left their imprint. Today's habits will write the next chapter. The secret isn't a complicated formula. The secret is to decide, then repeat. Decide once, repeat daily. Let's deepen the conversation about how habits grow, because understanding the process makes it easier to stay with it when enthusiasm fades. I like to think of habit formation as a 3-step loop: cue, routine, reward. You notice something, you respond with an action, you feel a result. The brain loves this loop. It saves energy. Once a pattern feels good or familiar, the mind hardwires it. That's how good habits become automatic and how bad ones dig trenches. I remember when I used to pour a late night cup of coffee as a signal to catch up on work. The cue was the quiet of evening. The routine was caffeine and more screen time. The reward was the illusion of productivity. But morning fatigue kept stealing my best hours. Changing that habit wasn't easy, but I began with a new cue. A tall glass of water and a short stretch at night instead of coffee. I replaced the routine with a brief journal entry about 3 wins from the day. The reward became calm sleep and a clear morning. Small shift, big impact. Habits don't demand perfection, they demand direction. Miss a day, start again. What matters is not the stumble, but the rebound. A mentor once told me, success is a numbers game of recommitment. That line has carried me through countless lapses. Let's talk about the first arena we introduced earlier, the mind at a deeper level. Guarding your mental diet is like guarding the gate to a city. Every conversation, every article, every video is a visitor. Some visitors bring gifts, others bring chaos. I once kept company with friends who lived on complaint and sarcasm. We met for coffee and left more drained than when we arrived. Slowly, I replaced those gatherings with lunches with people building something. Businesses, families, ministries, art. Their language of possibility began to replace my language of excuses. The shift wasn't dramatic in a day, but over months my inner dialogue changed. That's the quiet power of association. Think about your own circle. Who challenges you to think bigger? Who drains your energy? Who invites you to grow? You don't need to judge anyone, but you must choose your influences. As Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Reading also reshapes the mind. I set a simple rule: read 30 pages a day. It takes about half an hour. In a year, that's more than 10,000 pages, the equivalent of 20 or 30 solid books. Imagine the wisdom you'd carry after a decade of that. Now the body. We touched on movement earlier, but let's widen the lens. Your body craves rhythm, rest, nourishment, exertion, recovery. Neglect one piece and the whole system wobbles. I used to treat sleep like an optional extra. I bragged about late nights as if fatigue were a badge of honor. Then I studied the research. Lack of sleep impairs judgment like alcohol does. No wonder my decisions felt foggy. I committed to a bedtime routine: dim lights, no screens an hour before bed, gentle stretching. A brief gratitude list. Within weeks, my energy doubled. Projects that felt heavy became manageable simply because I was rested. Nutrition follows the same principle. You don't need a complicated diet to feel extraordinary. You need consistency. I focus on whole foods, plenty of water, and mindful portions. One small habit that made a big difference. I began each day with a full glass of water before coffee. It woke my system, improved digestion, and reminded me that discipline can start with the simplest act. The spirit deserves equal attention. Gratitude is powerful, but let's add reflection and service. Reflection is the art of listening inward. Some call it prayer, some meditation, some quiet time. I sit in silence for 10 minutes each morning. not to solve problems, but to notice them. Sometimes I repeat a short phrase like, be still and know. Other times I simply breathe. That space creates clarity no schedule can steal. Service is the outward expression of a strong spirit. When you give time, skill, attention, you remind yourself that life is larger than your personal goals. I volunteer at a local mentorship program once a month. It isn't grand, but it keeps me grounded. Strangely, service replenishes more energy than it costs. Here's a truth I've witnessed: habits built in private eventually shine in public. The entrepreneur who greets dawn with discipline earns opportunities that night owls miss. The parent who listens without distraction plants confidence in a child that lasts decades. The friend who writes thank you notes quietly builds a network of loyalty. None of these people sought applause. They simply lived their habits until the habits spoke louder than words. If you want a practical start, design a keystone habit, a single practice that triggers other improvements. For me, it was the morning notebook. 10 minutes of intention bled into healthier meals, clearer communication, better financial decisions. Why? Because clarity at dawn makes discipline easier at noon. You might choose a different keystone: a daily walk, an evening family dinner, a consistent bedtime. Pick one. Anchor it to something you already do. That's the secret of habit stacking. If you brush your teeth every night, add 2 minutes of gratitude right after. The old routine carries the new one. Some ask, but what if I fail? You will. Everyone does. The question is not whether you'll break a streak. The question is how quickly you'll begin again. The power of habit is not in never missing, but in never quitting. I recall a winter when I missed 3 weeks of exercise after an illness. Old me would have waited for a Monday or a new month. Instead, I laced my shoes on a random Thursday and walked 10 slow minutes. That single act kept the habit alive. As we close this section, imagine your life 5 years from now if you simply protect 3 habits. 1 for mind, 1 for body, 1 for spirit. Every single day. Not heroic leaps, just faithful steps. The harvest will be astonishing. Write down the habits you'll begin or strengthen this week. Post them where you'll see them before the world demands your attention. Each morning, remind yourself that extraordinary is not a destination. It is a daily choice, repeated until it feels like breathing. Momentum is a quiet force. Once you taste it, you wonder how you ever lived without it. Momentum is built when a handful of small, deliberate habits line up and start working together. It's like pushing a heavy flywheel. At first, every shove feels impossible. But keep pushing, and one day the wheel spins almost on its own. Habits work that way. What begins as discipline becomes rhythm. What begins as effort becomes ease. I first learned this during a season of financial strain. My income was uncertain, my expenses steady. Worry became my nightly companion. One evening I remembered a principle a mentor had shared. Track every dollar. What you measure improves. It sounded tedious, but desperation has a way of making you teachable. I bought a simple notebook and wrote down each expense, every coffee, every bus fare. At first it felt like counting grains of sand. Yet after a month I saw patterns I'd never noticed. Little leaks that were sinking the ship. I cut those leaks, and within a year, I was saving more than I'd thought possible. A habit of awareness created momentum that no raise alone could have given me. Money is a mirror. It reflects your habits more loudly than your words. Building wealth is not about sudden windfalls. It's about quiet disciplines: tracking, saving, investing small amounts consistently. Extraordinary lives are funded by ordinary stewardship. The same truth applies to relationships. Great connections aren't built on occasional grand gestures. They grow through the daily choice to listen, to notice, to encourage. I remember when a friend moved to a new city. I promised to stay in touch. Weeks slipped by. One morning I set a recurring reminder to send a short message every Friday, a question, a memory, a note of support. 2 minutes of effort each week deepened a friendship that distance could have easily dissolved. Habits of connection are the scaffolding of lasting relationships. Ask yourself, what is one small ritual that would keep your important relationships alive? A nightly check-in with your spouse, a monthly call to your parents, a handwritten note each week to a colleague. Relationships die not from lack of love, but from lack of attention. Momentum also thrives on self-education. Formal schooling can end, but self-schooling must never stop. I keep a learning hour on my calendar 3 times a week. During that hour, I read biographies of innovators, listen to thought-provoking podcasts, or study a new skill. Over time, those hours compound like interest. They have given me ideas that turned into income, friendships, and opportunities I could not have predicted. Consider how the digital world tempts us to consume without purpose. We scroll endlessly but learn little. What if you redirected even half that time to intentional study? Imagine the expertise you'd build in 5 years. The world pays a premium for those who keep learning when everyone else is scrolling. Another pillar of momentum is personal reflection, stepping back to examine not only what you are doing, but why. Without reflection, habits risk becoming mindless motions. I schedule a quiet morning once a week. No meetings, no calls, no tasks. Just a long walk or a seat by the window with a notebook. I ask simple but piercing questions. Is my life aligned with my values? Am I drifting into someone else's definition of success? What needs pruning? Reflection sharpens purpose. It keeps habits serving your vision rather than enslaving you. Let's return to the body because momentum loves energy. Movement creates clarity. On stressful days, I often take a brisk 30-minute walk in the middle of work. No music, no phone. The rhythmic motion untangles mental knots. Problems that seemed unsolvable at my desk dissolve on the sidewalk. Many of my best ideas have come while walking, not working. The body in motion invites the mind to breathe. Nutrition habits deserve the same steady care. I once thought energy drinks and fast snacks could replace balanced meals. They can't. Your body is an engine. It needs clean fuel. One simple upgrade changed my afternoons. Preparing a balanced lunch the night before, lean protein, colorful vegetables, whole grains. When noon arrives, the decision is already made. No vending machine, no sugar crash. Preparation is the hidden partner of discipline. The spirit, too, gains momentum from small, repeated practices. Gratitude remains central, but I've added a morning act of kindness rule. Before noon, I look for one way, big or small, to encourage someone, a sincere compliment, a thank you email, a small donation, even holding the door with deliberate warmth. These gestures seem insignificant, but they keep my heart outward, focused, and they create ripples. Kindness returned often surprises me in unexpected ways. You might be wondering, how do you protect these habits when life gets chaotic? Because life will get chaotic. Travel, illness, sudden deadlines. These are part of the deal. The answer is to build what I call minimum standards. A minimum standard is the smallest version of the habit you'll do no matter what. If you usually exercise for 30 minutes, your minimum standard might be 5 minutes of stretching. If you normally read 30 pages, it might be 1 page. The goal is never 0. Even on the hardest days, you keep the chain alive. This mindset saved me countless times. Momentum depends more on continuity than intensity. Financial habits also need minimum standards. Maybe it's reviewing your budget for 5 minutes each Sunday or automatically transferring a fixed amount to savings even in tight months. Tiny, yes, but consistency beats size. Let's talk about environment. Habits thrive or die based on the space around them. If you want to eat healthier, keep fruit visible and sweets out of sight. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow each morning so it greets you at night. Design beats willpower. I reorganize my workspace so that my journal and pen sit directly beside the keyboard. That visual cue invites reflection before email. It's astonishing how small tweaks can steer behavior. Another key to sustaining momentum is celebrating progress, not in a loud, bragging way, but with quiet acknowledgement. Each week I review wins, however small, a completed workout streak, a thoughtful conversation, a financial milestone. Celebration fuels motivation. It tells the brain, keep going, this matters. Perhaps you're thinking, all these habits, mind, body, spirit, finances, relationships, how do I start without feeling overwhelmed? Begin with one keystone habit and let it cascade. Momentum multiplies. My morning notebook led to healthier meals, better money management, deeper friendships, all because clarity first thing made other good choices easier. Failure will visit. Expect it. Welcome it as a teacher. I've abandoned new habits many times. The trick is to restart quickly and without shame. Progress is not a straight climb, but a rising spiral. Each return strengthens resolve. As you consider your own extraordinary life, pause and picture the compounding effect of small disciplines. Imagine 5 years of daily reflection, mindful movement, financial stewardship, intentional relationships. Picture the person you become: steady, clear, generous, resilient. That future self is waiting inside the choices you make tonight and tomorrow morning. Momentum is not magic, it is math. Tiny efforts multiplied by time equal transformation. The flywheel you push today will spin with its own strength later. Keep pushing. Take a moment now. Choose one habit, just one, that you will protect through storms and schedules. One practice you'll honor whether you feel motivated or not. Write it down. Share it with someone you trust. Begin tonight, because an extraordinary life isn't built by chance. It is built by daily habits that refuse to quit. Every extraordinary life eventually asks the same quiet question: what will you keep doing when the first excitement fades? Because at some point, the novelty of a new habit wears off. The praise stops. The early results flatten. This is the crossroads where most people drift back to old patterns. But it is also the place where transformation deepens. True mastery is persistence after enthusiasm. Think of the musician who keeps practicing scales long after the first applause, or the gardener who still pulls weeds when the heat is heavy and the neighbors have gone inside. Extraordinary lives are forged in those steady, unseen moments when no one is clapping. During my early years of building better habits, I faced exactly that test. I had committed to a morning notebook, regular exercise, weekly reflection, consistent saving. For the first few months, everything felt fresh. Then came a stretch of gray days, busy travel, late nights, unexpected problems. The thrill disappeared. I wanted to quit. What saved me was a lesson an older friend shared: discipline is remembering what you want most, not what you want now. I wrote that line on a card and taped it above my desk. Each dawn it whispered the truth: the future you dream of is built in the present you would rather escape. Let's talk about how to stay the course when the road feels long. First, revisit your why often. Purpose is fuel. Without it, habits feel like chores. I schedule a monthly vision evening. I pour a cup of tea, review the goals behind each habit, and imagine the life those habits are creating. Sometimes I update a vision board. Other times I just sit with the pictures in my mind. A healthier body hiking with grandchildren. A debt-free life supporting causes I love. A mind sharp enough to keep learning at 80. Seeing the end renews the energy for the means. Second, measure progress with honesty and kindness. Data is a friend when used for awareness, not shame. I keep a simple chart for key habits: exercise, reading, saving, gratitude. Each mark is a quiet victory. On weeks when the chart shows gaps, I don't scold myself. I ask what interrupted the rhythm and how can I adjust? Reflection replaces self-punishment. Third, embrace seasons. Life moves in cycles: busy months, quiet months, unexpected detours. Instead of fighting seasons, plan for them. During travel, I shrink my habits to their minimum versions: a 5-minute stretch instead of a full workout, a single page of reading instead of 30. Minimum keeps the chain unbroken. Momentum survives. Another safeguard is community. Share your goals with a trusted friend or small group. I meet monthly with a circle of peers who are also building deliberate lives. We trade progress reports, encourage each other, and laugh at our stumbles. Accountability turns solitary discipline into shared adventure. When I've wanted to skip a practice, the thought of explaining the lapse to that group has nudged me back on track. Let's turn to a different dimension: legacy. Habits are not only about personal success, they are about the imprint you leave. Each choice you repeat shapes how others experience you. Children notice the way you speak to strangers. Colleagues notice whether you keep promises. Friends remember the consistency of your care. Long after careers fade, these impressions endure. I think of my grandmother. She never spoke on a stage or wrote a book, but she lived a handful of habits with astonishing faithfulness: daily prayer, generous hospitality, careful stewardship of every coin. Those quiet disciplines shape generations. Her life reminds me that the extraordinary is not always loud. It is often steady, gentle, unwavering. Money habits deserve a final word here, because financial peace amplifies every other area of life. Beyond saving and budgeting, consider the habit of giving. Tithing, donating, helping a neighbor. These acts break the grip of fear and cultivate trust in abundance. I began by giving a small percentage of every paycheck, even when income was thin. Over time, that habit rewired my relationship with money. It shifted me from scarcity to generosity. Remarkably, opportunities and provision often followed that open hand. Health habits. 2, deepen with age. Strength training, mindful eating, regular checkups. These are long games. The goal is vitality, not vanity. I once met an 80-year-old runner who said, "I don't run to add years to my life. I run to add life to my years." That single sentence captures the spirit of lifelong wellness. Consider also the habit of lifelong curiosity. An extraordinary life stays fresh because it keeps learning. Whether it's a new language, a musical instrument, or a craft, learning wakes up the brain and keeps humility alive. I recently started sketching, badly at first. But the process taught me again the joy of being a beginner. Beginners see the world with wonder. Service remains a central habit. Look for needs near you, mentoring a young person, helping a neighbor repair a fence, supporting a local shelter. Service doesn't have to be grand. It has to be regular. When service becomes a rhythm, it turns success into significance. Now, a word about setbacks. No journey is free of them. Illness, job loss, relationship strains. These arrive without warning. The purpose of habit is not to prevent storms, but to steady you through them. I once faced a serious health scare that halted my routines for weeks. Yet the structure I'd built, gratitude, reflection, supportive friendships carried me. Habits become a lifeline when life tilts. As we near the end of this exploration, imagine yourself 5, 10, 20 years from now. See the compound effect of thousands of small, faithful actions. Picture the calm that comes from financial freedom, the vitality of a well-cared body, the joy of rich relationships, the depth of a cultivated spirit. That vision is not fantasy. It is the natural result of the daily disciplines you choose and protect. So where do you begin? Or begin again? Start with clarity. Write down 3 areas that matter most to you. Perhaps health, relationships, and purpose. Under each, name 1 habit you can start today. Just 1. Tie it to an existing routine. Commit to it for 30 days. Let success there inspire the next step. Remember this final truth: habits are not cages, they are wings. They do not trap you, they free you. They free you from the tyranny of moods, from the chaos of impulse, from the regret of wasted time. They free you to create, to give, to love. When someone someday asks how you built an extraordinary life, you will not point to a single moment of brilliance. You will point to mornings of quiet intention, evenings of gratitude, walks taken, books read, notes written, small gifts given. You will smile and say, "I simply did the right small things every day for a very long time." Let today be that next small day. Choose 1 habit and honor it before the sun sets. Tomorrow, choose it again and again. In the arithmetic of destiny, ordinary multiplied by faithful equals extraordinary.